A period of 10 years might seem short to an adult. It might even pass in the blink of an eye. But my daughter, who was in elementary school, is now old enough to enter the workforce. My husband, who left home and lived with his parents for 10 years, abandoned his responsibilities as a father, and Emily enabled this behavior.
Let's build a two-family house and live together.
They just want a housekeeper. It's too late to come sniffing around for money now. I raised my daughter alone for 10 years. I haven't wasted my time like you. My name is Jane, and I'm 53 years old. I'm a full-time, part-time housewife. My daughter, Laura, who commutes from home to college, recently got a job offer and will start working next year. She's still quite naive, and I worry about her, but I'm happy she's grown up so well. It feels like a long time, but also like it went by so fast. And now my parenting journey is coming to an end. We still have some education loans to pay off. For over 20 years, Laura has been my top priority, but now I'm wondering what to do next. I'd like to travel, take some classes, and maybe finally join the gym I've always wanted to go to. Around this time, my parents passed away. They were both involved in a rear-end collision and died at the same time. It was so sudden that I didn't even have time to grieve. I was swamped with funeral arrangements and inheritance procedures. After wrapping up discussions with the accountant, I finally felt the tension leave my shoulders and the tears came. I suddenly remembered. I need to contact Jack. I take out my smartphone and call my husband, Jack. No answer. Yes, he's not answering. I tried calling him several times before the funeral, but he didn't pick up. I also sent emails, but there was no reply. Then I got so busy that I forgot, and now it's been over a week. I don't think to myself, what kind of heartless wife forgets about her husband in a situation like this? It's been 10 years since Jack stopped coming home. It's not that he disappeared. He lives at his parents' house. He left of his own accord and has been avoiding me ever since. Not being able to contact him directly is both inconvenient and annoying. For urgent matters, I have to leave messages on their landline. When Jack first left, I was at my wit's end. He wouldn't talk about what made him unhappy enough to leave, so I had no idea. But with raising Laura and working full-time, I quickly stopped caring about the reason. I also thought it was a waste of time trying to understand someone who could so easily abandon his family without saying a word. From the beginning of our marriage, Jack always prioritized his parents. We fought about it countless times. No matter how many times I explained, we are a separate family now, and you have a duty to us. He would break promises whenever his mom, Emily, called him over. Even if we were ready to go out or had a trip booked, it didn't matter. Still, when Laura was little, he seemed to make an effort to spend time with the family. But things changed when Laura hit her rebellious phase and started treating Jack coldly. Then Emily threw out her back. I remember it was winter. It was a snowy year, and both Laura and I had colds. Jack said he'd help out at his parents' place for a while and never came back. Jack couldn't do household chores to save his life, so I don't know how he was useful there. Emily welcomed him, saying he could stay as long as he liked. Jack is the eldest son from a small town. He grew up believing he was unconditionally important. Emily, who spoiled her grown son with overbearing attention. Jack, who depended on the comfort of his pampering home. To Emily, I was the woman who took her precious son away. It's too much, I can't deal with them anymore. Reluctantly, I called Jack's parents' house. Hello, Emily, it's Jane. Is Jack there? He's not answering my calls.
What do you need Jack for?
Please put him on.
Why? Just tell me what you need.
She's the same as always. Emily always gets in the middle, so I haven't talked to Jack in years. My parents passed away.
Oh,
We kept the funeral simple because of the current situation.
why didn't you tell me sooner?
I did try contacting you several times.
I can't believe it. You have no sense of decency.
What is she talking about? What does she even mean by decency?
Having the funeral already. It's just not right. This is so typical of you, Jane. Oh, by the way, what about your parents' house?
We're cleaning it out this weekend with the family. Emily paused to think.
That big house.
Yes, it has a large lot, so it will take some time. Emily laughed eerily. What is it?
Oh, sorry, it's nothing.
All right then, goodbye. After hanging up, I sighed. Laura looked at me worriedly.
Mom, you look terrible. Are you okay?
Laura asked, worried.
You don't have to report to Dad and Grandma if it's making you this upset.
I can't just ignore them.
Mom, you're so conscientious.
I just don't want to be someone without common decency. I said that to Laura, but in truth, I wanted to scream at them to their faces. I could even cut ties with them. But Jack is Laura's only father. Over the weekend, Laura and I head to my parents' house. My brother and sister take the lead, and we start organizing our tasks. Clearing out a house with no occupants is a monumental job. Hiring a professional to deal with the large furniture and appliances would be best. Just then, the phone rings. It's Emily. It's rare for her to call.
Hello, Jane. How's the cleanup going?
Emily's voice sounded unusually cheerful. I wondered if something good had happened.
Sorry I can't be there today. I have an unavoidable appointment.
What? She planned on coming? We haven't seen much of each other in the past 10 years, and now she's suddenly saying this. She probably doesn't even know where the house is. It's fine, really.
Oh, don't say that. We're family. It's only natural.
What's with this sudden change of heart? Emily is usually so self-centered, but this time she seems reasonable. I'll take her sentiment at face value.
By the way, since you're cleaning out the house, are you dividing up the keepsakes?
Yes, it's quite a lot of work.
Right. It must be overwhelming to deal with so many things.
Yes, dealing with clothes, paintings, and other items is a challenge.
That sounds lovely.
I started to understand Emily's intentions, and my feelings cooled. I take back what I thought earlier. She doesn't have any sense after all. Is that all you needed?
Well, just for reference, could you tell me what kind of assets your parents left?
What?
Just for reference, since I might be next, you know.
It varies for each family.
Of course, but it wouldn't hurt to share, right?
I couldn't hide my irritation. Maybe Emily had gotten older and more greedy over the 10 years we hadn't seen each other. My parents will stated that the inheritance should be divided equally among me and my two siblings. Obviously, Emily has no right to interfere. I made it clear. It's being divided into 3, so it doesn't concern you.
What?
We're busy, so goodbye. I hung up the phone. Her rudeness was beyond belief. Talking about inheritance without a single word of condolence for my parents. Just then, Laura, who had been cleaning another area, came over.
Was that Grandma on the phone?
Yes.
What did she want?
Nothing you need to worry about, Laura. I said with a wry smile, but Laura looked annoyed.
I'm an adult now. Stop treating me like a child.
I hadn't meant it that way, but her bluntness surprised me. She is indeed old enough to enter the workforce now. It's a bittersweet realization.
Mom, I understand.
Understand what?
If I'm right about this, promise me something.
What is it? I made a promise to Laura. A week later, after most of the cleanup was done and I was about to return to work, then the doorbell rang. Thinking it was a delivery, I opened the door.
It's been a while.
That grating voice. I should have checked before opening the door. I wouldn't have opened it if I had known. Standing there was Emily and, oh, a fat, disheveled man with thinning hair swaying in the breeze. Wearing a loose sweatshirt, he had an unclean air about him. Could this be my Jack? I stared at him in disbelief for a moment. You've got the wrong person, I said, trying to close the door.
Don't be ridiculous, Jane.
They had never contacted me, let alone visited. So why were they both here now? Especially Emily, who seemed unusually cheerful. She had always guarded Jack from any contact with me. They brushed past me and barged into the house. Hey, Emily, wait a minute. Jack followed her in without hesitation. Since it's Jack's house, I guess it's not really intruding. No, he's been gone for 10 years. He's practically a stranger. And I really didn't want this dirty old man in my house.
We brought you a present, Jane. You're going to love it.
Emily said cheerfully, sitting down with Jack beside her.
I'll have coffee. Jack, what about you?
I'll have tea.
Jane, please.
It wasn't just Emily. Jack's attitude also pushed me to my limit. After leaving us and living at his parents' house for 10 years, only sending a pittance of money without any contact, he had the nerve to ask for tea so boldly. Why should I have to make you tea? Even if I were willing, he should have something to say first. Trying to stay calm, I asked, what do you want?
What's wrong, Jane?
Please get to the point.
What's with the attitude? We came all this way.
If you don't have any business here, please leave.
You're such a rude dill.
A person who shows up unannounced after 10 years for their convenience has no right to lecture me about manners. I maintained a resolute attitude. At that moment, Laura came down from upstairs.
Grandma, it's been a while.
Laura. Laura's eyes widened in surprise. Jack looked just as shocked upon seeing her.
Laura, you've grown so much.
Well, who are you? Laura didn't recognize the man next to Emily as her father. It's understandable. The last time they met was when she was in elementary school.
Who? It's your father.
Oh, my father.
Laura, I feel the same way. The overweight, balding man in loungewear in front of us must be hard to accept as your father. To you, he's just a stranger.
Laura, sit here.
Jack tried to make Laura sit next to him, acting all superior. Laura stepped back, looking at him like he was something dirty.
No, absolutely not.
What?
I have a condition that requires me to stand, so don't mind me.
Poor Laura, suddenly having such a condition.
Take a look at this.
Emily took out the contents of an envelope she brought and spread it on the table. It was a blueprint with the name of a famous house manufacturer on it. The floor plan had enough rooms for 4 families, a completed rooftop garden, and an exterior that looked like a palace. There were also brochures for luxury cars casually placed alongside.
Well,
What is this?
I had our dream home designed. Isn't it lovely?
Emily sought my agreement, but I didn't know how to respond.
You can design the kitchen and bathrooms however you like, Jane.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. The person using it has the right to choose.
The person using it.
We realized that families should live together, and then we got the money. Everything fell into place perfectly.
Well, whatever the story is, what does this have to do with me?
We're family, right? What's ours is everyone's.
I couldn't follow the conversation, but I knew Emily was running wild with her plans. Desperately, I turned to Jack for some sense. What about you? Without answering my question, they just looked at each other and nodded. Then Emily whispered something to him from behind. Were they starting some modern day whispering conference?
I'm thinking about moving back.
I was so confused. A strange sound escaped me. What?
We'll use the $3 million inheritance to build a two-family house and live with my parents.
Emily nodded, looking satisfied.
See? Isn't it wonderful?
Laura, overhearing, got excited and shouted.
See, Mom? I was right.
All I could do was laugh. It's true. Amazing, Laura. We looked at each other and burst into laughter. Seeing this, Emily and Jack were delighted.
We're so glad you two agree.
Really glad.
We've already set a start date for construction. We just need to pay the deposit.
Laura, addressing the mistaken pair, said,
You've got it all wrong. Grandma and Dad, you're being way too selfish.
What?
Even if we live together now, there's no way we'd take care of the two people who made Mom suffer for years.
What?
Mom, I was right, so keep your promise.
All right, I get it. Emily asked Laura, who was looking triumphant.
I don't understand. What promise?
Grandma, I bet Mom that you try to take her inheritance because you can't tell the difference between what's yours and what's not.
What? That's nonsense.
If you knew the difference, you'd have told Dad to go back to his own house.
But that's...
You just said families should live together. Do you really not see which house you should be living in?
Jack finally spoke up.
It's you two who kicked me out of this house in the first place.
Laura and I exchanged looks, completely baffled. We had no idea what he was talking about.
If you had just apologized, I would have forgiven you immediately. I was waiting for that one word from you.
Wait, what are you talking about?
It was Jane who told me to leave.
No matter how much I tried to recall, that had never happened. There's no way I would ever be in a situation where I tell Jack to leave.
Are you saying you forgot? On that snowy day, you told me to leave when I came home from work.
I remember that snowy day. You came home empty-handed while Laura and I were sick in bed and asked, "What about my dinner?" So I told you to eat out. Holding a grudge over something like that for 10 years. I felt drained. What a trivial reason.
Is that so?
Yes, no wonder it didn't make sense to you.
Then why did you leave me alone after that? You were responsible for that.
I tried to contact you many times, both you and Emily. Emily looked uncomfortable. She seemed to feel a bit guilty about not passing on the messages.
If you apologize, I'll forgive you.
What?
I'll forgive you. So let's put everything behind us and start over. We can all live together happily.
Hearing this, Laura laughed again and said,
Dad, don't you know?
What?
Mom has had divorce papers ready for 5 years.
What?
My promise to Laura was to file these divorce papers. She told me that if Emily wanted the inheritance, they'd keep causing me grief, so I needed to make up my mind. She also said she wanted me to live my own life freely. I'm glad Laura pushed me. It felt like a heavy burden had been lifted.
Don't be ridiculous. You can't just file divorce papers on your own.
I said to Jack, who was furious. If you've refused contact and lived separately for 10 years, that's a legitimate reason for divorce. I said that.
What did you say?
Didn't you know?
I made sure to send money and fulfill my duties as a father.
It wasn't enough to be proud of. Do you think money alone raises a child? You've been absent for 10 years, neglecting your role as a father.
Isn't it the mother's job to raise the child anyway?
Talking to him was a waste of time. We don't need to understand each other now. Yes, I raised her on my own. Clearly, we didn't need a father. Work, school events, driving her around, making lunches. It was a busy time. Even when I was sick, Jack was absent. We don't need you now or ever.
What?
Let's end this and file for divorce.
You can't be serious. What am I supposed to do?
Jane, please. What will we do as we get older? How will I take care of Jack and myself?
Emily pleaded, looking pale. So, Laura and I are just housekeepers, caregivers?
No, that's not what I meant.
I don't know about you, but we haven't exactly been taken care of by you.
What are we supposed to do with a $3 million inheritance? Let's use it wisely.
Where did they get this $3 million idea from? If it were split among 3 siblings, that would mean the inheritance was $9 million. Who do they think we are? The Rockefellers. There's no way we had that much. My parents' house looked grand but was just old, and they spent most of their money on their hobbies, leaving little cash behind. $3 million. Did you mishear 3 equal parts?
What?
We don't have enough money to build a house.
What?
Even if we did, I'd never build a house to live with you. Emily was stunned, and Jack was on the verge of tears.
Jane, are you really going to abandon me?
No amount of tears from a grown man in his 50s who's been so selfish could move me. Continue living happily at your beloved parents' house. Goodbye. 3 months later, Jack's persistence in trying to reconcile had become stalking. I didn't read his lengthy, bitter emails, which came more than 20 times a day. I warned him that if he continued to harass me, I would consider legal action. I told him I was saving his threatening emails as evidence in case I needed them, and being the coward he was, he soon backed down. The divorce papers were finally signed and accepted. In my view, neither Jack nor Emily had any imagination. They couldn't understand others' feelings or their own future, living selfishly for the present and regretting it later. Expecting someone else to take care of them was naive. Even Laura was preparing to stand on her own. How pathetic they were. Oh, and Laura plans to move out and live on her own once she starts her job. I suggested it. It's sad and worrying, but I know it'll be a good experience. You can't understand the value of money, time, or family without experiencing it. She'll be nearby, and I don't plan to let her struggle. I want her to succeed as a responsible adult. As for me, my part-time job offered me a full-time position. I was asked to do it if things settled down with raising the kids. The divorce is finalized, and being a full-time employee would be a great opportunity. So, I'm studying to get the necessary qualifications. I feel like I'm starting a new chapter. I told Laura about it.
Mom, you're becoming a new working professional, just like me.
We both laughed. Even though the time is the same, how you spend 10 years varies from person to person. There will be fun times and times when things don't go as planned. Sometimes it takes 10 years to find the answer. I'll live my life freely, just as Laura wanted. And I hope she does too.